Okay, so this is a confidence interval, and it's a confidence interval for mu when sigma is unknown. They've given us raw data. We don't know anything about the population at all. And so we've got this sample data. We've got a sample size of 20, and I went ahead and I calculated x bar, the sample mean, and the sample standard deviation using either the by hand formulas or one variable statistics in your calculator. We've got, when you have one sample t intervals or test, your degrees of freedom is n-1. So the degrees of freedom in this will be 19 degrees of freedom. So we want to find a 90% confidence interval. You can either do this using your calculator's t-interval function, if you've got a grapher. If you don't, you've got to do it by hand, which means you've got to calculate an error of tolerance or a marginal error of estimate, and you need a t-critical value, and it's for a confidence interval. So let's come over here, and again it was for a 90% confidence interval, so let's get out our t-table. Let's go to 90.900 on the C row, and let's go down to our 19 degrees of freedom, which will give us a critical value of 1.729. So I'm going to remove my t-table and insert that value into the formula, 1.729 times the standard deviation, which I calculated, over the square root of n, which is 20. So when we calculate the error of tolerance, we get a value of 11.2002 6996. Okay? And technically it doesn't matter if you now choose to round this before you do your interval, or if you don't round and then round at the end. Usually I just leave it a big long thing, but technically at which point you round doesn't matter. As long as you're not rounding too badly in here, it should be fine. So let's move down to our interval. I'm going to use a little bit shorter error of tolerance. I'm going to round it right here when I do my error calculation, because this was cost. The variable was prices of a sleeping bag. It was cost, so I'm going to round it into 2 decimal places for money's sake. So I'm going to round that error of estimate to 11.20. So we're going to take the sample mean that we calculated, subtract the error that we just calculated, mu's trapped in the middle, take the sample mean, add the error, and that creates the interval around mu. And again, this is in money to remind myself, so $72.55 on the lower bound. Upper bound price, $94.95. And that is the interval. That's a really ugly 4. There you go. And that's a t-interval. And again, if you were using your t-interval in your graphing calculator, you would have got actually the exact same interval. So no rounding hiccups in this one. And we want to interpret it, so no matter what method you use, your interpretation is the same based on the evidence. We are 90% confident that the true population mean cost of sleeping bags lies in the interval $72.55 to TO $94.95. And that is what you want to circle. And that is your answer. So that again is a confidence interval for mu when sigma is unknown. In other words, it is a t-interval.